like intro.
Welcome to the Counter Surveil podcast on Iron Geek's YouTube channel, where we explore the intersection of tech, resilience, and real-world problem solving. Today, we're thrilled to have two powerhouse guests, Eric Sullivan and Alan DwangoAC Cecil. Eric Sullivan, a seasoned contractor with over 20 years of experience, saw the potential of crypto to streamline project management. After Hurricane Helene, he used his skills to combat profiteers and build new homes with minimal investment from property owners. Despite suggestions to buy out residents, Eric's mission is to help Appalachia stand firm and say, "Fuck that jazz." He's doing everything he can to help people rebuild, protect their equity and keep them from falling prey to predatory land grabs. Inspired by a program his friends developed at Colorado Timber Frame during floods and wildfires, Eric is building affordable SIP panel homes for those in need, often for little to no cost to the property owners. It's community building at its finest, fueled by passion and resilience. On the tech side, we have DwangoAC, founder of the TazBot community and senior ambassador at tazvideos.org. Known for his mind-bending talks at DEF CON, ThoughtCon and may contain hackers, Alan uses his expertise to bring life to TazBot, an incredible little bot that connects retro video game consoles to the internet and even trolls Twitch chat. Now, TazBot isn't AI, but he sure is cute. While I, your AI narrator, am all digital, TazBot lives in his natural habitat, sitting in front of a CRT, orchestrating his moves with precision and charm. Beyond the tech wizardry, Alan has helped raise over $1.5 million for charity through events like Games Done Quick, where he showcases jaw-dropping game glitches that entertain and inspire. So tune in as we sit down with Eric and Alan, diving into the worlds of disaster recovery and tech-driven charity, and see how they're each making an impact, one community and one button press at a time.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Counter Surveil podcast. I and Sledge and Altkey are your hosts, and this week we have guests DwangoAC and Eric Sullivan. Dwango and Eric, welcome to the cast. It's nice to see both of you today.
What's up, guys?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Yep,
We can hear you just fine, and your video is good now too. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, of course.
So this week we're going to be covering a bunch of different stuff, and with two guests, the one thing both of you have in common tends to be your work in the charity sector. Dwango, from my understanding, your work with TazBot alone has raised over $1 million for charities over the years. And Eric, from my understanding, the stuff you're doing out there in the disaster area is pretty groundbreaking and trying to prevent people who are doing land grabs and taking advantage of people who have been hit hard, trying to help get people housing, things of this nature. So I think the best way to go about this is to have an interview with Eric first, and then a bit of a palate cleanser with Dwango, where he's going to go over some of the TazBot stuff and a little bit more on a light note to end things. So Eric, why don't you kind of take off and give us a little high-level overview. What are you doing out there?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So obviously, you guys know that destruction was absolutely insane. If it was me, I'd put it up with, Chicago fires, San Francisco fires. I mean, I think there's 6,000 miles of road that are going to have to be rebuilt, as well as 1,800 plus bridges, not including all of the homes. So there's a lot of people, including people in my family, that just their house may be fine, but they can't get to it, So a bunch of interesting stories there. Just to say one, my in-laws had to actually work with their little community and commandeer a mini excavator, kind of like mine, and build a road just to be able to get people in and out on a four-wheeler, just to get supplies. Took about 4 days before they were able to actually get people in and out. There was obviously no communication, so we didn't know if they were alive or dead. So luckily enough, I had mounted a posse with all of this stuff. I was going to go out there and build a road if I had to get to them. And then somebody was kind enough to be running four-wheelers back and forth and smart enough to be taking names on a list and phone numbers and the night before I was about to leave, I actually got a text message that said they were good and they were going to head down to a shelter. So as soon as that was done, I ended up going out to Old Fort, which is a little town that was decimated, and just started getting to work. There's no organization whatsoever from any government agency, local or otherwise. That was the biggest hurdle by far. And then I'd say the second biggest was just dealing with like the actual aftermath while you're doing it. So I was warned right when I got there with my equipment, you could possibly, dig up a body. So if you have to, call the cops and just stop what you're doing. That was about the only piece of advice I got. And then I just started working and, built a road around a house that was in the middle of the road to get the DOT to inspect the bridge, and then worked with National Guard to get to build a road around a road that was washed out for that bridge. And to be honest, I'd never been there. I had never been on that street. I've never been on that main street. This is the one spot I worked was maybe 1.5 miles worth of road from Main Street to this bridge. And it was just a ton of people that were like me, weren't around, like their place was all good. Their neighborhood was taken care of, things were going, and we just immediately went out and started, trying to help in any way we could. Once that was done and communications, the first time I went out there was about like 6 days after the actual storm, and still didn't have internet at my house. I still didn't have any connectivity to anything. And actually, by the time I got up there, I was able to talk to some folk and figure out exactly how bad everything was besides, just driving. That's when I ended up seeing a video from our governor saying that, we're trying to convince these people to take a buyout instead of rebuild them. And immediately I was like, hell no, that ain't going to happen. So, I mean, as far as what everybody might have seen, like, hey, they're trying to, take over a lithium mine, stuff like that. That could be in the works. I'm not going to verify or deny it, but I'll tell you this: whenever your government says, we're going to buy you guys out, especially the people that are up in the mountains, most of them won't take that anyway. But some of them may not have a choice. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that the ones that, don't have a choice or have little of a choice can get a choice, can get an option. And the only way to do that, in my opinion, is to give them a house, let them build equity on that property that they already own, up to the point where, the bank or the government can't take that away from them anymore. There's no option there. As soon as I put something on a piece of land and it's assessed and it goes through tax assessment, good luck. They have plenty there. The banks will say, yes, thank you very much. We'll make more money than what was there before if we have to foreclose. And, it's kind of enticing people who would love to take advantage of these people into not. So it's kind of, it seems like it's kind of the antithesis of what you should do is hand somebody more equity that's going to be, a profiteer. But sometimes it's the only way to get these people to stay on their land that they've had in their family for generations. So that's kind of the way we're going to go about it. Actually, to really dive into the product. So I was watching a little video and SIP panels, just to tell you guys, it's a structurally insulated panel system that's extremely efficient, not just like energy wise, but one of these things can be done from breaking ground to turnkey in 45 days. To put that in another way, if you're going to traditionally build a house, that's going to take you anywhere between, even a small house, you're going to look at 9 to 18 months. So we can actually turn these things around super quick. The cost as far as materials are very competitive to what, traditional framed house would be. And then these things have over and above, I think the testing was just done. It's 180 mile an hour wind speed is what these things will take. So they're much better than a traditional frame house in all ways, shapes, and forms. They're easier to build, more efficient, and that we're trying to put these things on people's property. So maybe we don't have this in the future, at least the ones we do. And then, obviously we're building equity for people that could definitely use it. So not only that, if they do have any insurance that might cover them, or they're actually able to put that in their own pocket after we're done, if the insurance company is covering us over and above. Obviously, we'd like to see them donate a little bit and pay it forward to the next person, but I would never hold anybody to that. They can use it for whatever they want. They lived homeless for a little while, So working with a couple of different companies as far as suppliers that are doing an extremely good job at keeping everything cost effective, cutting everything that we need as fast as possible without taking shortcuts, and then connecting us with people like Mitsubishi for mini splits, which are a very efficient HVAC system, and connecting us with window companies and everything else to really make sure that our price point should be roughly a third of what the normal build rate was around this area right before the storm. So if we could do that, obviously that's just gaining a bunch of equity, like I said, enticing insurance companies and grants and FEMA and nonprofits to say, wow, this is a very cost effective method about going about it. And then we're also enticing other contractors that I know personally. I'm not trying to hold this thing tight to the chest. I want this to go out to everybody. I want to make sure that we have as many contractors as we possibly can building. So the idea is to actually get a contractor or two and their best guy, right hand guy, to actually help us put the first one up, and then the next person gets another contractor to teach them, and then they put that one up. And then you just keep going down the line to where all of a sudden maybe you have 10, 20 different contractors that are actually able to build these things and at a fraction of the cost, because you got, labor rate was next to nothing. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good overview, Eric. Thank you so much. Some questions. Sledge, do you have any to start out with?
When you were talking about lack of communication, were there ham radio guys out there on the field relaying information?
So it was weird. Depending on where you were at and where you were working, right? So just around my house, we didn't really know anything. I didn't know anything about my, in-laws. I had to find a small spot that was over by the airport that would give me enough service to where I could get text messages out, maybe a phone call. And I just selected some of my, most trusted folk that were, good with research, everything else, including my mom, to just be giving me like weather breakdowns every day, trying to figure out and do the research and figure out if my, in-laws were okay, via Facebook or whatever the case may be. And that was my experience for the first 4 or 5 days, like I said. And then going into like something like Old Fort, I didn't know of anybody giving me information regarding ham radio. The National Guard that I was working with, we got to talk a little bit about it, and their radios obviously were working, and you could hear stuff buzzing on that, and police chief's channel, and there were sheriffs running around, but nobody was informing even a guy like me on the ground. Some of the other cities like Burnsville, they did a really good job of trying to get the communication and coordination out, and they'd have a town meeting, and if you were volunteering, you'd go to this one spot, everybody would kind of get orders and then disperse and do what you had to do. So there's a lot of good podcasts, and Aerial Recovery did a really good one with Sean Ryan, where, I mean, you're looking at now, this is like about a month later, and I'm learning things from podcasts that I didn't even know, so I'm learning how, things went in Chimney Rock and stuff like that. So as far as the ham radio thing, I haven't heard anybody that was, nobody has voiced it to me like, hey, I used a ham radio to talk to this person. But then again, I'm not in, the ham radio field. I should be by now. It's something that I'm definitely looking into is the, better communication.
That's kind of surprising to me, because a lot of ham radio guys do emergency response training and all this stuff for that exact situation.
Yeah.
I would imagine them being on the ground, unless maybe their antennas got destroyed or something.
Well, I don't know what the draw is on a ham radio, but you'd be shocked at how many people just didn't have a generator or a chainsaw. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
the one thing I was disappointed in most was the fact that like me and a state trooper in my whole development, my whole neighborhood, which is older. I mean, it's built in the 70s and 80s. But it was me and a state trooper were the only ones that had a working chainsaw. So when all of a sudden you have dozens of trees down, it's like you ask somebody if they have a chainsaw and they're like, well, not one that works. And it's like, well, so you don't have a chainsaw, like I'm running around in my machine on the first day trying to get the whole neighborhood cleared up. And I'm leaving my running chainsaw by my feet on my excavator and not letting anybody touch it. That's like a lifeline at that point. So there was a lot of interesting stuff like that. I mean, you were the first person. I mean, I saw a couple of things regarding ham radios lately on social media. And I was like sitting there going, yeah, I'm going to have to look into more communication as the one thing I was just ill prepared with for sure. But Starlink was and has been great. I'm working with some folk that are,
if you have electricity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so my father-in-law, he actually went out to his house and he bought Starlink, set it all up. It took a couple hours and you couldn't get a voice call in on a normal cell phone tower at his house before this. And now he goes out there and he's making phone calls. So that was a big game changer for sure. But yeah,
Dude, I live in North Georgia
and
we got lucky. It kind of bounced around my area a little bit before it hit your area there.
Yeah.
And only one tree in my yard fell over. So I got to go cut that up.
That's nuts. I mean, I had just out of about 30 homes and change in my little development, probably 12 of them had trees on them. So I think I took care of at least 2-3 dozen trees just in the road or in driveways in about 4 hours just in my neighborhood. So yeah, I was wondering why you guys didn't. It seemed like you guys got hit with a Category 1 that went right through Atlanta, and then all of a sudden one of my friends. Yeah,
my neighborhood is literally right in the center of that map, that satellite map.
Yeah. And then we're the ones that got 29 inches of rain in 20 hours.
Yeah, and you were going to go out the DEFCON flag in the hurricane and do the screamy thing.
And I was like,
you were so hyped for it. And we were going to have that as our new intro, but no.
Oh. The rain just wasn't good enough.
I'll tell you this, we ended up getting hit with 2 storms, right? So I don't know if you guys have seen that map. I got a picture of it, but we got hit with 2 storms. So the one came in, and some of these places got 12 to I think it was like 8 to 12 inches of rain the day before this storm hit. So we were already soaked, and then all of a sudden it was just chaos. So for 4 hours, it really wasn't the amount of water that we were getting hit with. It was the wind and the water. And, like I said, 29 inches of rain. Some of these places got right up by like Mount Mitchell. So that'd be like the Eastern Continental Divide. And then it just came right back down towards the East Coast, down all of these valleys.
God.
So, yeah. Yeah. And
I've got some friends out there that are just stuck still, but there's internet now, so they can communicate.
Well, I mean, and if you have friends out here so I've been telling everybody and anybody that's watching this, if you're on any sort of social media, anybody that's had total devastation from their house, my little Twitter handles right there, send it my way. I am like legitimately collecting names. And if I can like get out there, even if I have to get out there with my own dump truck and my machine, I'll get out there, get to them, help them out if I can. And then make sure to at least assess the damage and see if we can get something built for them. So a lot of people are doing like tiny homes and insulated sheds for to get ready for winter, and they're all getting hooked up with generators. But I mean, that's just going to be a temporary fix, which is definitely needed, but what we're trying to do is just make sure that everybody's made whole without having to go in debt or declare bankruptcy. So
the night of that storm, it was funny. We went to Home Depot to buy a generator, and they had a huge stockpile of them, but only Ryobi. And we're like, seriously?
Yeah, I mean, again, Samaritan's Purse was out giving away generators that are bigger than mine. I think I was one of like 3 people on my block that had a generator, and mine is like the loudest, right? So now I'm sitting there thinking, oh man, I got to get a quieter generator. Who knows what's going to come around? So, but speaking of operational security, I'm like, ooh, do I really want these people to know that I have power? But
Those
yeah,
Honda ones are pretty quiet. I like those.
yeah. Yeah, my neighbor has one, and he was running it all day, and his wife was like watching movies during this stuff, and I was like, "You're just gonna burn that fuel, huh, buddy? All right, well, not my house." I'm running mine, 2 hours twice a day just to make sure that the fridge is good, make some
Generator
coffee.
go burr.
Yeah, generator.
That's
didn't
literally
go
why we
burr.
bought the generator, was for the fridge, just in
Mhm.
case.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I had the ability to put all of mine together. I know enough where I can wire up into the panel and not, kill myself or a lineman, right? And I had been thinking about it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I don't want to run this thing. I mean, to be honest with you, the fuel lines were hours long. So yeah, with a toddler and a wife at home, A, I didn't want to leave, and B, I was like, why am I going to risk, going out and possibly getting in a fight or injured or robbed or whatever because it's cash only. That's the other thing. I was shocked at how many people needed to borrow cash from me because cards weren't working for the first 5 days.
And then you can't even get cash out of an ATM.
No. That's why that was funny about the FEMA giving everybody $750, and it was like, what are you going to mail them cash? Like, what are you going to do? Serious? So yeah, the ineffective nature of
That was a
government.
slap
Right?
in the face to begin with, anyways.
Well, yeah, but when you can't even get it, it's a kick in the balls.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I thought for a second, I'm like, oh yeah, they're just gonna airlift it in, and then I realized, oh yeah, you know how many rednecks have shotguns?
Oh, so the mountain folk are an interesting breed. I can tell you.
I
some
know,
stories.
I am one. I'm just from
Okay.
Northwest Georgia, so I'm from a slightly different side of said mountain.
Okay. You guys fared well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't live there anymore. I was born there. Then I moved out because I had to go actually get an actual job and actually adult and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Northwest Georgia fared very, very well. Even my hometown, which is pure mountain 24/7.
Yeah.
Even Courage the Cowardly Dog didn't get hit somehow. So no, we're all good.
Yeah, and I honestly believe it was like the combination of the 2 storms. The one that was from us at the bottom all the way into, all the way in. I think that thing went to Ohio, and it was that storm, and then this wide outer band just smacked us. So we legitimately were in the perfect storm and just got really mangled. So
that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
So has to go get gas. That would suck. Yep. And as Lambda said, always have cash because you never know. Life.
I've got a slightly technical question for you, Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you were talking about hooking up a generator to your house's circuit board, what did that entail?
So there's 2 ways to do it. There's the right way and the way that could potentially kill somebody.
The right way and the redneck way?
Well, so if you don't
the right
do it
way, and the way
correctly-
that puts a lineman's life in danger.
exactly right?
redneck way.
So somebody's trying
back
to. Yeah. So what happens is you can backfeed the system if you don't do it properly, which means that you're actually sending power out through the lines while somebody's trying to fix them. So the way to do that is you basically have to kill the main every time, and then you just wire it into a good sized breaker, like one of your 50 amp breakers. And typically you want to wire in. The right way to do it is a transfer switch is what it's called, and you just plug it right into it's already pre-wired. You plug your generator into this wiring transfer switch system to where the only way the power can go from the generator to your actual panel, your breaker panel, is to hit this switch, in which case it kills all of the ability for your wiring from your generator to go out to the lines. So,
and how much does one of those cost?
They're not bad. I mean, it's less about the materials in that sense and more about the know-how, getting a good electrician to come out and do it.
I've been thinking about doing it myself because I'm actually a certified electrician, but whatever.
Yeah,
I just haven't done that one before.
Yeah. So, I mean, seriously, if you're a certified electrician, jump on YouTube and you'll get it. It's not that difficult at all. I mean, it's all about just utilizing various breakers and then the transfer switch is just there so that if you were to forget to hit that main, you'd kill somebody, right? So the transfer switch is just a switch to be like a dummy protector switch, to where everything's all wired and you just hammer that switch real quick and now you're going to get power. So if you had your generator plugged in and you're like, oh, why am I not getting power out of the generator and it's running? It's like, oh, I just didn't hit the switch, instead of, oh, I forgot to kill the main and now I just killed a man, right? So
Oh shit, everything's on fire. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened.
yep. So
So
Cool.
Eric, when
Yeah.
it comes to the work you're doing out there, are you working with the insurance companies to help the people who essentially have gone through this horrible ordeal get back into housing, as far as like these houses that you're putting up for them, or like what is the funding source that's helping pay for the materials and
Yeah. So,
work?
obviously, insurance is first and foremost, but some of these people are hitting the issue where they didn't have flood insurance because they weren't in a floodplain, right? Why would you?
Ooh.
Yeah. So when would you ever need, flood insurance when you're on top of a mountain, right? Well, all of a sudden that small little tributary that was a foot deep became 20 feet real fast, right? So there's a lot of issues there regarding, who's going to foot the bill. Um, as far as what we're doing is, hit every option first, right? Whoever is due that debt, um, you know, they have to pay it first, right? So insurance companies, yes, first. I'm not a public or private adjuster, so I recommend anybody in any situation with your insurance, if you're going to file a claim for your house, get your own adjuster. Don't go through the insurance companies. That's A. And then after that, obviously, if there's no funding there because you're being denied, there's always an out. There's a couple of different attorneys that will go through and try and go to bat for you, and they do take their pay from whatever they get from you. Same thing as a private adjuster. They're going to just soak the insurance company for a bit more, and that's how they're going to make their pay. You're not going out of pocket. And then if that doesn't work and the insurance company isn't going to foot the bill no matter what, even by a small amount, then obviously you have to start looking at grants and FEMA and whatever they can possibly do. So grant writers have been people I have been trying to ping constantly. Some of them are really, really good. Some of them not so much. They really don't care. But then FEMA, I mean, I could tell you stories about FEMA, but let's not get into that. We all know government sucks. So
Yeah, that's another tangent.
yeah. So, but obviously, I mean, if you can get 10% of the loss, out of them, it's sure it's a drop in the bucket, but anything helps. And then after that, it's nonprofits. So if somebody is, extremely destitute, that's when all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need people to sponsor this, person. They need to, be made whole. And again, I'm not that ambulance chaser kind of contractor that's going to go and fix a roof. I'm doing full builds. I want to make sure that these people are made whole so that the government can't come in and buy their land pennies on the dollar. That's the idea. I want to put my focus there. There's plenty of other people that'll build, and repair and do all of that stuff. I'm plenty busy before this storm. I don't need that work, so I'm still trying to take care of all my clients that were, patient enough to hold off for a month while I got my crap together. And then, obviously, and again, I'm just lucky I started doing this, this same SIP panel system as a way to bring costs down. Because I don't know if you guys know, but in Asheville, the average house of a bill or average price of a house build was $275 to $350 a square foot. So
Ooh.
yeah, so you're looking at $1,000 house is going to cost you 350 grand. So
We did ours ourselves 4 times, and it was bordering about 120.
Mhm.
If you do it yourself.
And it depends on where you build too. That's what we're actually trying to get this down to, is to be around 100 and a quarter a square foot. And if you think about that, I mean, when I moved here 8 years ago, the average price was $150 a square foot. So 8 years ago, that was like a good price to build a home. And now it's, astronomical. So
Yeah.
nobody can afford to build. And when you're looking at insurance, some of these people where, now it's going to cost $350 $300,000 to build the home, maybe they were only insured for 220 because they didn't up their coverage. That's another issue. So again, that's where we want to step in and say, look, you are covered by insurance, but you're missing out on $100,000. And in some of those policies, there's $2,000-$3,000 a month for living expenses, and if they're going to get rebuilt, that could have to last between 9 and 18 months. So again, we're trying to entice those insurance companies like, hey, you could save $36,000 and not having to pay those living expenses. So just another tag in the bucket. So
doing the Lord's work, good sir.
Doing the Lord's work.
Well said. All right.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we have any other questions for you right now. It seems our audience hasn't really asked too many. Evelyn, did you have any for him?
No. I was just looking through the audience, and there's a few comments, but they're all support for you, Eric. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
There's no haters?
Absolutely not. In fact,
you guys got a good audience.
Well, we do. We have the best audience. But as a small town girl living in a lonely world, but no, absolutely. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those deals. Somebody helped my in-laws get out, and my wife and I were going through survivor's guilt pretty bad. So it was one of those deals like, how come my house didn't get hit? How come I'm getting to drink hot coffee? So she was super supportive through the whole thing of me just getting out and doing, what should be done. I'm grateful to see the outpouring of support. It's been crazy how much, the country is legitimately just came pouring in. I think the longest, some guy is coming from British Columbia. He's showing up. I think he might've showed up today to go out and rebuild. So, I mean, you're looking at 1 day, 18-hour drive, and this guy's coming. And he's coming in hard with it, whatever he can get. So it's cool to see.
Yep, you're manifesting the idea of paying it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of our other podcast hosts just got back from doing rebuilding and stuff at Tybee Island when they got hit.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't say his name. Crabstrong.
Okay. Yeah, Tybee Island's a great place. If you haven't been, go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Really great place. That's the other thing is, not to hold everybody up, but because I'm really interested to hear about somebody who's been able to, bring millions of dollars into the fold as far as the rebuild fold. The one thing I've seen is this is a very service-driven town, right? So it's very touristy. This happened right during leaf season. Which is a huge season, everybody coming in to take a look at the Leafs, on the, Blue Ridge Parkway, all that jazz. But the amount of people that have just pinged everybody I know for like Airbnbs, like, hey, is it okay to visit? We want to bring in money. We want to come and experience and make sure that you guys are still good in whatever way we can. But yeah, the outpouring's been awesome. So it's amazing that people are willing to do all of that, even just show up and just stimulate the economy a little bit and help when they can, is a hell of a lot more than any of the governments are doing. So,
America.
Fucking A.
America's the people. Fuck you.
Yeah, sure as shit is. Sure as shit is. So.
All right. Well, Eric, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on today and letting us know what you're doing out there.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work. And this is then the final time to ask any questions if anybody's got one. We do have some audience comments for you. One of them just being that you are doing a great job out there. And thank you.
Yeah.
So once again, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
And,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, one more from Sledge.
If anybody's interested, are you willing to take volunteers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, if you just my DMs are open at Eric Crypto. So if anybody wants, even just information to where to go and volunteer, I can point them in the right direction. There's a lot of really good nonprofits that I've been watching for a while because of my my work with Kool-Aid. One of the things we were going to do is hold nonprofits accountable for their funding usage.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I can get into Kool-Aid at some other point in time, but yeah, I've been watching one called Beloved Asheville for a while. Look them up and feel free to go and help them do whatever they want, because these people are, putting everything together between, generators, dropping meals off at houses. They're doing everything, and they're just right in Asheville. Other than that, if you wanted to get to some surrounding areas, let me know. Everybody, as far as volunteers, was thinking like, oh, we're going to go and we're going to just pull people out of burning buildings, right? We're going to be the hero. And they didn't realize that, no, you're probably just shoveling mud. And a lot of people wanted to come out and be heroes, and they get disappointed and dejected and leave. So just understand, clarifying expectations. You're not doing anything great. The people that are alive have been saved. I had some people that were walking the Swananoa River looking for bodies, and this was like a week later, right? So we were, you're just doing the work. Yeah, it's not something glamorous. You'll meet some good people, you'll do some good work, and you'll hear some good stories and see some people shed some tears. But all the real big, heavy, rah lifting is already done. So if you do want to volunteer, just know that first and foremost, and then make sure you're good. Bring all your stuff. If you need you have a question on what you need to bring, let me know. So,
and like mucking around with a piece of shit chainsaw that
no
works on a good day.
No,
yeah, good luck getting that on the plane.
I mean, there's some spots that are dealing with chemical issues, as far as spills. Ooh. And I mean, some places you can't.
You can't try hard enough.
Right. Well, if
I knew that. I knew you would say something. Sorry, Eric. Continue.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So yeah. Some places need like hazmat gear. So I mean, every issue is different. Every little spot is different because it's the mountains, and every little community is having their own hardships. So yeah, if somebody wants to get put in, whether with me or anybody else doing volunteer work, I'd be glad to. If I can't use anybody at that point in time, I'll point you in the right direction. So I don't mind.
And finally, Eric, could you send over the information to me so that I can permanently add it to this podcast's episode?
Yeah, and I'm getting real quick. I'm getting added to it's called Extreme Panels and Colorado Timber Frame. They're actually just going to stand up a website that has everything there. So as soon as cool. I get that done. I'll just make sure that everybody, gets that link, and that'll have the majority of the information you need and contact information for me and all that jazz. So,
perfect. That would be absolutely ideal. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Eric. So thanks again. I'm going to remove you from the stage now, and
you're good.
You will be backstage.
Hey, man, thank you for your time. Pleasure meeting you.
Absolutely. And keep in touch, all right? Let us know how the progress keeps going. We want to hear it.
Yep.
All right. And that concludes our first guest for the evening, Mr. Eric Sullivan. Now, moving on to a slightly more light topic here. We have DwangoAC, keeper of the TazBot, with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody in the audience who's not familiar with TazBot and yourself a little bit about both yourself and TazBot?
You bet. Well, if you've never heard of me before, I am DwangoAC. I do have a cute robot. I'll show you him in just a minute. My background is a little bit strange. I come from a rather Linux-heavy background. I was the president of the North Bay Linux Users Group for a number of years here in the San Francisco Bay Area, up in the North Bay. Unfortunately, I have some stories that are very similar to Eric's. We lost over 6,000 homes in one night to the Tubbs fire, so we've certainly been through our battles of those kinds of recoveries ourselves. And I wish I had more than just words to offer at the moment, but I can say, Eric, you've got our support. Thankfully, I have something a little bit more lighthearted to distract us all with, because, hey, who doesn't need a little bit of levity? So I'm going to press a button here, and I'll see what happens. Yeah, there we go. So this is my wonderful TazBot right here. He is a video game playing robot. He plays video games perfectly for charities like Games Done Quick. And I'm just going to have him play some Super Mario Brothers 3 for you here. I've got a terminal here in the lower corner. We'll just kick that off. This is going to do a soft reset to a physical Nintendo console. And if I've done everything correctly, you should be able to hear that audio now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic, isn't it?
All the memories.
Ah, the nostalgia's flooding back.
So I'm going to lower that down a little bit just so it's in the background. Don't want it overriding me too much here. So a couple quick notes of what's going on here. First of all, this is a real Nintendo Nintendo Entertainment System, and there's actually a Super Nintendo on the screen as well. I might get around to explaining that later on. There is a controller cable connected from TASBot, going from that red replay device. That's a TAS TM32 replay device that's pretending to be an NES controller. It's connected to the front port of a real Nintendo Entertainment System with a real physical cartridge. Actually, I have a couple copies of this wonderful game right here with me. There are actually a couple of versions of this game. This happens to be the PRG 0 version, and I believe what I have in there right now is the PRG 1 version. What you're seeing is a perfectly recorded series of button presses created laboriously inside of an emulator that TASBot is playing back like a player piano. So one of the interesting things about what you're seeing here is this is not AI. In fact, that hit you just saw there might look like a mistake, but it was deliberate. In fact, the bump you just saw got rid of the tail, which reduced lag and allowed us to swing through that section right there very quickly. So there's all of these crazy, impossibly challenging things happening right now. Let me back up a little bit. First of all, if you've ever tried to play this game, it's not nearly as easy as this looks. This particular tool-assisted speedrun was made by Lord Tom, Tampa. I think a Delicat was involved in this one. We happen to be watching the warpless one. This will go through all of the levels without using the warp whistles, at least if I don't have a desync. Normally, a tool-assisted speedrun is made in an emulator, something like FCEUX or BizHawk. And it gives you an opportunity to play through the game with the same things you would expect to have in a virtual machine. Things like I'm going to bump this down just a touch. Things like a save state, or what we call a snapshot. We would call it a save state, but just a snapshot of your entire virtual machine. We have the ability to go back in time and reload that state anytime we like. We call that a re-record. We have the ability to advance one frame at a time or play in slow motion. We have the ability to peek into every single register in the CPU and see every byte of memory. That allows us to analyze what's going on, play through the game, try over and over again until we get a result that's suitable or the fastest that we can get through or the most entertaining or whatever your goal is. For instance, in this section right here, let's assume you're trying to find the most entertaining thing you can do. Well, that's the most entertaining thing you could do. But maybe you wouldn't know that you can make a fire flower bounce up and down due to a glitch the first time you come through here. So maybe you make a save state at the beginning of the level, try something, don't like it, back up, try again. Just repeat that ad nauseum until you as a human being have completely wrecked the game, just like you're seeing here. What we're doing now is a lot more like a player piano. We've taken the sequence of button presses laboriously created by a human, and we're playing them back one button press at a time, similar to how a player piano would play back a pre-arranged composition of music that had been previously arranged by a human. And a player piano would be playing one note at a time from the beginning of the song to the end. We're doing one button press at a time from the beginning of the game to the end. Now, I do all this background explanation to kind of give you a context of what we're doing here. This is all under the guise of speedrunning, playing through a video game as fast as possible. And I got involved in all of this stuff because of a charity event called Games Done Quick. Specifically, I got involved in Awesome Games Done Quick back in 2013 in preparation for AGDQ 2014, raising money for, at that time, the Prevent Cancer Foundation. I've now been doing tool-assisted speedrun content at charity events for over 10 years now. But most of the work I've done has been at Games Done Quick charity events, either Awesome Games Done Quick or Summer Games Done Quick, which benefits the Prevent Cancer Foundation. I'm sorry. Summer Games Done Quick benefits Doctors Without Borders. I've also done work with National Alliance on Mental Illness. And just a couple of weeks ago, we did Disaster Relief Done Quick, benefiting direct relief for hurricane victims. So it's been a pretty incredible journey through that process. The way that it makes money is rather strange. You're able to watch these Games Done Quick charity events for free on places like Twitch. Oftentimes, they're also now simul streaming on YouTube. I think they might still be on Twitch only right now. The idea is that anyone can watch for free, but you can donate with various different incentives. And by the way, I recognize that most people are probably not listening to anything I'm saying and are just watching Mario utterly wreck a boom boom right now. But anyway, long and the short of it, these charity events are 24/7, usually for a week, starting on a Sunday, ending on usually early Sunday morning the week following. So 7 days in a row, one after another, one person after another playing a video game that they've practiced and rehearsed as well as they possibly can. And I show up and I have TaskBot play perfectly. We have donation incentives that people are able to pay for to see certain content or see certain challenges. For instance, maybe you'll show Mike Tyson's Punch Out, but if the donation incentive is met and enough donations are sent to the charity, you'll get to see that person play Mike Tyson's Punch Out with a blindfold on. We do the same thing, but we have donation incentives to have TaskBot do crazy things like what you're seeing here. So that's kind of the overall, in a nutshell, how we've managed to use video games being played on a real console to raise money for charities. I'm going to pause there because this is a lot of crazy, crazy stuff.
Wow. And TazBot
Incredible.
alone is really freaking amazing what you built here. Some very basic questions. If you're not doing just a straight up replay of the keys, say it's one of the games where some elements might be interactive to a degree where you can't necessarily reliably always get the same exact iteration on like a Nintendo. How does it handle those situations when you're like doing those kind of?
Let's chat about deterministic behavior. Here's the reality. Most video game consoles of this particular era, say 1980s, 1990s, most of them only have one source of entropy, specifically player input. And because they're only using a pseudo-random number generator that's seeded with that player input, we can control the outcome of that PRNG simply by providing the specific player input that we want. To give you an example, Super Mario Bros. 3, earlier on you saw a Hammer Brothers moving around the overworld map. Normally, when you're playing the game, and yes, this is absolutely nuts. Normally, when you're playing the game, you're going to see that Hammer Brother move in all kinds of random directions, and you're not really going to have any direct control over that. But because we're always pressing exactly the same button presses on exactly the same frame from the beginning of the game to the end, we fully control the seed for that pseudo-random number generator. Now, we don't control the RNG itself, but we can manipulate it. And the RNG manipulation allows us to coerce the game to give us favorable enemy drops, favorable Hammer Brother movement in the case of this game, things like that. When you have a situation where there are variables that you cannot control, for instance, Breath of the Wild, or even Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64, those games have random functions that have characteristics that we don't have full control over. And in the case of Ocarina of Time, you'll see random motes being drawn in the forest. Those random drawings interact between the CPU, the GPU, just how everything works in a way that creates what we call a desync. We don't get consistent deterministic output. We get non-deterministic output. We cannot make a tool-assisted speedrun work in that environment unless we get a human to help us first to do things like take over the video game and patch in our own code with arbitrary code execution. We did a really crazy thing with use after free in that game using a use after free exploit called stale reference manipulation by the Ocarina of Time speedrunning community. There's a whole extra conversation about that. But in situations where we need to do something with the tool-assisted speedrun type concept, but we can't fully rely on the console being deterministic, we have done some crazy things in the past. One of them was Final Fantasy X through a person named Coder Wilson, who created a machine learning and ultimately artificial intelligence that was able to compensate for what was going on and play through the game using that ML AI combination to complete the game, even if things were not necessarily fully deterministic. Outcome of that was not consistent every single run, and sometimes it did get kind of fouled up a little bit. But by the way, watch this. He's going to go in a door and out a door in the same frame, which lets him skip a little bit of time. Anyway, so for other situations, we've done things with Super Smash Brothers, specifically Melee, where we were able to use Smashbot made by a former colleague of mine named Alt F4 to analyze the. Well, first of all, we triggered an arbitrary code execution because, of course, we did in Super Smash Brothers, and we used that to trigger the game to send the opponent's X and Y coordinates out of the memory port, which we then intercepted, sent to TaskBot. TaskBot then interpreted what those button presses were, used the Smashbot code to determine the next button presses to send, and then sent those button presses to the real video game console over the controller port. So that was a way we were able to make Smashbot and TaskBot together utterly destroy every human player who tried to defeat them, unless they got really cheesy with silly things. So that was a long answer to the question, but effectively, the vast majority of tool-assisted speedrun content is not going to work unless you have a deterministic environment. But there are some ways where you can still make tool-assisted speedrun style content work, even in those constraints.
Wow, that's some really amazing work you've done there, dude. That's some.
It's a good thing for me to say it's not just me. This is a whole team of people. There's no way that any one person can have all of the knowledge to do all of this at the same time.
I get that. I meant as the ambassador to the community and the royal you. You guys have done amazing here. It's really cool to see this speedrun alone, and the fact that it's being played on the actual hardware blows my mind. It's not even an emulator in the mix. It's very cool and badass, guys. This is really cool stuff.
All right. Now, there's so many different topics I could talk about next, but I'll pause. What questions do you have?
Questions from the viewers.
I've got one, but let's do the viewers first.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So 2 questions coming in from Lambda Calculus. 1, will you be back at MagFest next year?
I have been officially invited as, and this I can't tell you how weird it sounds to say this out loud. I have been invited to attend MagFest as a celebrity guest, so I will be there with TaskBot. So yes.
Amazing. And could you essentially guide Hammer Bros away from your path in Mario 3 by RNG manipulation?
Yeah, here's how you would do that. Let's say that right before you were exiting a level and you were about to get the card at the end, you pressed a series of buttons that didn't affect the speed of getting through the level, but did have an impact on the pseudo-random number generation sequence. That would allow you, I'm hearing some feedback, that would allow you to not impact how fast you're getting it through that section, but then you could fast forward in the game and see, okay, did the Hammer Brother move where I wanted them to? Okay, nope, not quite. Back up and try a different combination of button presses. In some games, the pseudo-random number generator has been reverse engineered so thoroughly that we already know what we need to do to arrive at the correct location. Sometimes we'll employ Lua scripting to help automate that process. Various different techniques are possible depending on what you need. Maybe you're looking for a very specific memory value. For instance, I made a tool-assisted speedrun on a game called High Speed. It was the first task I made and submitted to the site back in 2008. And when I made that submission to Task Videos, they had an FCEU X emulator with Lua scripting, and I used that Lua scripting to look in a specific location in memory for favorable drops. I was specifically looking for these tokens that would drop on the playfield that would allow me to get to a bonus game quicker. And I used a Lua script to randomly flip the flippers in the pinball machine simulation when there was an opportunity to do so where it wouldn't affect the completion time, like how long it would take me to do something, until it found the fastest combination of button presses that generated the exact memory value I wanted, which mapped to the specific token I was looking for. So that's just an example of the kind of things we can do to manipulate the pseudo-random number generation.
Thank you, Dwango. Amazing. Oh my god. All right, Sludge.
Casting this using a physical NES.
Yeah, I am in fact using a real NES. I didn't hear the first part of that. I just heard wind noise, but I think you were asking how are we doing this on an NES?
Oh yeah, somebody is causing some feedback, but how are you broadcasting this on NES?
Oh, easy. So and not easy all at the same time. Brace yourself. This is going to get really geeky really fast, but here's the chain of what's happening to go from what you see all the way to, oh, hey, we desynced. That's fun. Yay, guess what? We broke it.
Demo gods.
Yeah, that happens. So this is a desync. We will now die. Actually, Mario will just derp around in the corner and do silly things. You can see the button presses that are being pressed down here, right here on this controller. So you'll see he's currently trying to press right, doing all kinds of stupid things. This is a failure. I'm going to hit Control C here, and instead of warpless, let's do.
So when you say Control C and it's not an emulator.
Oh yeah, this is the button presses that I'm sending to the console. This is running on a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just got to go find the right one. There's the warp list that I was doing over and over again. Warps, here we go. 3679. Let's give that a shot. Gotta love the stupidity of Bash. Let's see, can I find the file actually? Okay. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in a. Oh, that's Super Mario World. That's the wrong one. Ha ha ha. Here, you know what? I'm going to do this.
Hey, Havoc, let's zoom into his terminal real quick.
Oh, sure. If you want to see it bigger, I can do that.
He's got it in a panel format.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, you certainly can. I can.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. I can embiggen this as well. Let me just do that.
Yes, please. We're nerds. We like to see code.
Hey, no big deal. And plus, I'm driving the struggle bus over here because
well,
over
it's
here.
better than being under the tires like I am usually.
You know, it happens. Let's see how big this is. This is probably going to come in. Oh, that's a little too
There
big.
we go.
All right.
That's it.
I just want to be friends with your Rob.
Right? You know, that's funny that you mentioned Rob because that's where we started. We started with a Rob robot.
So who is the friendo that you've got there? Your little Rob that you've got in the other.
That's TaskBot.
Yeah, that's TaskBot. I'll show him on the big screen in a second.
Okay.
Let me just get this other one started. So I have a whole bunch of. Oh, this is a weird one. I might even be able to partially pull this off right now too. This is a quad run that plays Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, 3, and Lost Levels all with the same button presses. Let's see. There's a 100% run. I am looking for. Oh, man, all I have queued up for you is the warpless run. I thought I had other stuff here. That's okay. I'm just going to rerun the same thing because why not? Okay, so I have a command line here. What this is going to do is I'm using the TASTM32 replay device made by Onosaurus, help from the Moss 3212, Risteri, Big Bass helped with some aspects. A bunch of other folks were involved. I'm telling it that I'm using an NES console. I'm using controller ports 1 and 5. Don't worry about that. It basically means the first controller and the first controller on the second port. Because we could have a multi-tap attached. We could have controller ports 1, 2, 3, and 4 all in the first controller port. So 5, 6, 7, and 8 here. DPCM audio filter, a glitch. I'll show you some more about that in just a second. There's a soft reset command here, and then I'm saying play back the warpless button presses. So this is going to reset the console using a reset switch and start pressing buttons. So while this is playing, let me explain the how I'm getting this video to you. First of all, I'm sending button presses across a network cable coming out of this TASTM32. It's going into an adapter on the front of a real NES console that I can try to get in frame, but I'll probably mess up my camera if I do. But I'll give it a shot. And it is just taking that network cable and breaking the pins out to go into the end of a NES controller. I will show you a sample of that. Let me just go back to my other view here for a second. We'll just leave TaskBot running there in the background. That's the wrong one. There we go. So this is the adapter.
That's a Super Nintendo adapter to.
Yeah, this one's a Super Nintendo. Yeah. So yeah, it's a 8 RJ45 8GP. You know what it is.
Yep. Yeah.
That name. The official name for RJ40. Yeah. Right. The thing. So. That is going into the NES port. I'd pull it off, but I'm currently using TaskBot to play back this input. The output of this NES console is a multi-out that there's an NES RGB mod on this particular console. It's the only way that this particular console has been changed in any way. Otherwise, it's a completely stock Nintendo. The output of that gives us RGB video output. That's going into a Shinybo 4x2 matrix SCART switcher. One output of that SCART switcher is going into a Sony PVM monitor. You can see the side of that PVM monitor right here. Those old Sony PVMs were just outstanding. Out of that goes. This is a second OSSC. This is an open source scan converter. The OSSC is upscaling the output to HDMI or DVI, depending on the case. Because some capture cards have issues with HDMI capture from a Nintendo, I'm doing some extra treatment. Specifically, Nintendo and Super Nintendo consoles were made with a CRT in mind. This PVM that I was talking about earlier could care less if the Nintendo doesn't bother drawing the first horizontal frame until halfway through the line. But it gets really upset on a capture card that's trying to use the first frame of video to lock in the rest of that frame. So I'm then sending the signal out of that OSSC that's doing line doubling and taking that progressive signal and turning it into a larger resolution image. And I'm sending it through a DVDO iScan HD Plus, which then cleans up the image with a very minimal amount of latency since it's doing that process as the scan lines come in. That retimes the video, and I send that out to an Extron 8x8 HDMI switch that allows me to redirect that video feed into any of the monitors that I have. Like I have a monitor right here. A normal HDMI 1080p screen. I could redirect it to that or to my capture card. The capture card is then coming into OBS. OBS is using a virtual camera to go into the streaming software that is used in the for recording the podcast, which is then going out to where we're live streaming to. Yes, that was a lot of steps, but it works.
I'm gonna go back and look at this episode because some of the things you said I could use. I mean, if you could see me right now, I've got all this that I'm working with. And trying to manage different monitors is getting crazy.
Well, the other part of this is the sound, and I'm going to try not to break my camera here. Inevitably, I will. Oh gosh, let go. There we go. There we go.
No, that's cool.
I'm going to switch over. I'm going to press this button here. Let's see if I can even see what I'm doing. I'm going to press this button here, right here, and that will switch my feedback. This is an X32 soundboard. I've got all the motorized faders and like all the. Whoa, there! I almost dropped my camera. I've got all the motorized fader setups and things like that. You can see stuff moving around like that. This allows me to route everything so that my audio is actually coming out the feed that's going to my PVM. So my audio is headed out there, gets split off. There we go. This over here. There we go.
I have 3 soundboards, and I never thought to use one with my computer. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, we have a little bit of scripting here that we use to cheat. I'm going to go back to the game because no one wants to see me ramping around. By the way, as I was moving around, I probably caused static electricity, which caused an electrostatic discharge, and ESD is not great for reliable playback. So we desynchronized again, and that's okay. Well, I'm going to go back to here really quick, and let's play around some because I would like to show you something a little bit crazy. I don't know if I've got the right cartridge in. We're going to give it a shot. Let me cancel this, and let's just make sure we've got the...
This is so insanely sick.
I know. That's why I'm so quiet. I'm just like, this is too cool. This isn't the first time I've seen it, but it's cool every time. It only gets better.
Right? It does.
I'll be honest, this is actually the first time I've seen this, so shame on me, I know, but this is sick.
Well, now you'll have to see it again and again,
right.
And a little bit more.
1 second while I play off screen.
Absolutely.
Did you do any of that crazy stuff with Pokemon Go?
Me?
He has done some tasks of Pokemon games, I do believe, right?
Yeah, I don't have the right cartridge with me. I'm so sorry. I thought I did. I apparently do not have the correct cartridge. I'm just going to hide this terminal here.
So in the meantime, I guess I'll feed you some user comments.
Sure, go for it.
X32, nice dude. Oh, yeah, we are glad to be representing for the X32 here.
That was a very good investment, by the way. Do not regret.
So, there's been a question about how good is TazBot at Smash.
You might be able to get a hit in.
What about Marvel vs. Capcom?
That's not a game we've done.
Okay, making sure. What was involved in achieving the nearly 8,000 inputs per second for Mario Bros. Story? Like, how did you do that?
For Mario Brothers, what?
3.
Oh gosh, that's that one's actually the least crazy of them in some ways. Let me flip back over to this scene. Let's start this up. This is a fan favorite. Well, might as well keep you guys entertained while we're doing this. Of course, I'm not sure I'm playing the right thing, but
Tetris.
See now, I want to fight him in Tetris.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, is right.
All right, let's just do soft reset here and see if it works.
Insert jokes about cyber war with Russia right now.
Right. There we go. All right, we'll just let Tetris play in the background. Don't worry, this is expected. Anyway, it's going to get real messy very quick. I don't blame you if you have no ability to pay any attention to me whatsoever. Okay, so let's talk about how we press buttons. So this is going to get really geeky really fast, and I apologize for monopolizing the time. I see we're already 10 minutes after the hour, so you cut me off when you need to.
That's why we were here, is for the geeky.
We're not going to be cutting you off. We're amazed too.
Right?
In Soviet Russia, Tetris plays you. Thank you, Lambda. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about how a Nintendo console works, how a Nintendo specifically talks to the controller. One of the things that's interesting about the Nintendo is when I was a kid, I remember looking at the end of a controller cable, and I should have one right here. I remember looking at this going, how does something with only 7 wires on it have 8 buttons on the controller? Because there's up, down, left, right, select, start, AB, or BA. And I always seemed puzzling because like an Atari or a Genesis, they had enough wires to be able to handle 1 wire per button. But how did this do it? Turns out there's actually an answer to that, and I might even have it within arm's reach. Do I? Let's see. Let me see if I've got it in arm's reach. Hang on a sec. All right. So this is a breadboard that has it's a very interesting chip on it. This was the first device I made to do real replays on a real console. You don't have to worry about actually seeing this. This is a shift register inside of one of these NES controllers. When a Nintendo console is asking the controller for input, it's saying, hey, controller, I'm about to ask you what buttons are being pressed. Get ready. Latch. It sends a latch signal out. So your first wire is, not first, but one of the wires is a latch wire. The next wire up is a clock wire. Clock. Okay, give me the status of the first button that we have in a prearranged order. Is start held down, for instance? The third wire is a data line that's going back to the console, and the controller will either respond, yes, the button is held, or no, it isn't, just a binary 1 or 0. It's oddly inverted. I don't even want to try to explain why. And then the last 2 wires are 5 volts and ground to power the controller. So you're only using 5 wires in most cases for a Nintendo console to be able to read that controller. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated than that because of a minor flaw in every single piece of hardware that Nintendo created and sent to the United States market. You see, when they released the Nintendo, they kind of rushed a little bit and they had a hardware flaw. Every single console had an issue where open bus conflicts would cause button presses to get lost if it was also playing DPCM audio at the same time. Totally don't think you're listening to me at all because there's just so much mesmerizing stuff happening on screen.
No,
we just got 999 points in Tetris. I knew this was coming up. And then you launch all of Moscow into, okay, just going to stop the political commentary right there.
The space program has become a lot better than what it used to be.
Right.
I've never seen Tetris beat before.
Yeah, me neither.
Let's see what else I got. I know I've got others. Here we go.
So you were saying there's a flaw where it's a PCM. The audio is playing at the same time as a button press. It doesn't work. Like
Yeah. So they'd already made all the hardware, and there wasn't much they could do about it. Let me just do this again. I'm going to add in a soft reset here to take advantage of my reset wire. Okay, there we go. Hopefully that works. To solve the problem, they had to figure out how to filter out this issue where sometimes you would press a button, it wouldn't get registered. Still not registering. Let me just try one more thing here. Oh, I've got soft reset in there twice. That's not ideal. Let me just, nothing like typos.
Even the inventor of the tech can fat finger it on stream.
Oh, well, I didn't exactly come prepared to show this tool assisted speedrun, so, you know.
It just makes me feel better about my own fat fingering typing skills.
Yeah, this just ain't working. We're going to do one other try, and then I'll give up, because I don't feel like fighting with it. This is just a play around of Tetris. You can go find us playing this at Games Done Quick from, I don't know, check the task.bot wiki. So https://task.bot. Trying this from power on, but I don't have much hope.
Can you see that URL one more time?
For the https ://task.bot. Task.bot. Yes, I have a 3-letter TLD.
Gotcha.
Oh, I know what the problem is. I didn't do the clock filter. I did not do the thing you have to do for this specific game that I'm in the process of explaining to you.
You're doing great.
I'll quickly switch over and show you what I mean. This terminal here. Let me just move this up so I can have a button press, make it easier for me to hide and show this. Okay, so right here, this clock and DPCM, this is filtering for DPCM clock fix stuff. I'll explain what that means shortly, but let me actually start this properly. Okay, so that did a soft reset. This should actually work now. That's the... Okay, yep, that's fine. All right, now let me just pivot over to the other one, which is Tetris Play Around. Play Around, Baxter, R08. Okay, let's try that again. This should actually work this time. Okay, so back to our story. It's the 1980s. Nintendo has shipped a bunch of hardware to the United States, and it's all wrong. It's got this hardware flaw that causes erroneous button presses to get pressed on the controller when it's playing a specific type of audio called DPCM audio, and it crosses the open bus, interferes, and blows things up. So how do you fix that? You've already shipped the hardware. You don't want to waste that investment. So they shifted the burden onto video games. And in this case, that means that a video game has to filter out the button presses. It has to... I also realized why my Super Mario Bros. 3 didn't work. I just realized, hi, that's ADHD moment right there. It has to find some way to detect when this problem has occurred. Belaboring the point because I have distracted myself terribly, here's what Super Mario Bros. 3 does. It reads the controller and then reads the controller again, and it compares the results. If the results don't match, it throws away the first result and reads it again. Normally, you would only have this issue happen every once in a while. Rarely. Wouldn't even be an issue most of the time. Most of your inputs would be just fine. It would catch it occasionally in a blue moon. But what would happen if you deliberately inserted that and every single time it asked for the next button press, it kept getting a different result? Well, the basic answer is eventually you hit what's called a non-maskable interrupt, an NMI. It goes to try to draw a frame of video and cannot, because if you were blocking this, it would not be able to draw the frame of video. Basically, the non-maskable interrupt says, doesn't matter what you're doing, I don't care anymore. I'm going to move programming flow over to draw this frame of video. Only one problem, because we've been keeping it busy doing all this other crazy stuff, it hasn't had time to do any of the housekeeping operations it normally would have. So instead of landing in the right area, it drops directly onto a sled of no operation opcodes, and happens to slide right into an area of memory that happens to have opcode 0x20 in memory, right before where the controller ports are. And that means that whatever that opcode is gets executed, and whatever those values that follow it happen to be are what will happen next. The opcode is a jump to relative address. Because we control the buttons that are pressing on the controller, we write in the address to the end credits, and we tell it to jump to the end credits in about half a second. If you would like to know more about exactly how that happens, there is an excellent video by 100th Coin on YouTube where 100th Coin breaks down exactly how that works. There's also an article by Fuzzle from many years ago of how we accomplished this. But that technique allows us to find an opening, not just to jump to the end credits, but to get total control of the entire console. I was not prepared to show that today, so I might not bother, but that is the gist of it.
So if you do have control of the entire console, what kind of stuff can you do?
So many things. To go back to the question they asked, once we have the ability to fully control the console, we can tell it to read from the controller, not just once per frame, but constantly, over and over and over again, which leads to the next thing I'd like to show you, which is not on an NES. It's actually going to be on a Super Nintendo. Bear with me. This is going to be even more bizarre than anything you've seen before. Are you ready to see some fast button pressing?
Woo!
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to start with getting that video signal up. Let me just make sure I've got my, is it under PPM music? There we go. Let's move this up a little bit. I'm going to put this, bear with me for just a second. I'm going to get muted. And I want music to be the thing that is visible. All righty. Music. There we go. Haha. All right, now we're going to go back to here because this will be a lot more fun. All right, now I have a press of a button and I can toggle between this view and let's just do this full scene signal and press that. Okay, now I've got a button on my soundboard that will switch between these two. So first of all, we can do some really interesting things. Now this video capture is going directly into what I call my capture card, and it sounds terrible. Well, it looks terrible. It doesn't necessarily sound terrible, but it looks terrible. Unmute this. You guys should now be hearing Super Mario World.
That we do.
Okay. We'll leave that on the background.
Capture card joke.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely a capture card. This thing is horrible. All right, so let's flip back over here. I'm going to show you. Let's see. How am I going to do this? I am going to... screw it. I'm just going to exit out of here. Okay, we're going to do a del save. So I'm going to turn the console off, and I'm going to press enter, and this is going to prep the buttons that are going to be sent to this console. That error is expected. Don't worry about it. Let's flip back over here. I'm going to turn the console on, and here's what's going to happen. It's not all that exciting. All right, we've erased the first file. Go back over here. I'm going to go to V6. This is our stereo program. I'm going to flip back over. And now we're going to actually play Super Mario Brothers. Or Super Mario World. The first thing we just did is we just cleared out the save game because we needed to get rid of that to start fresh. This is my capture device. It does look like garbage. Just we're going to have to put up with it. It's fine. I could probably deinterlace it better, but it's not worth the trouble. Okay, so this is Super Mario World. We're going to head to the first level. And there's something that a number of videos have covered called the object attribute map in Super Mario World. You can see some amazing coverage from Retro Game Mechanics Explained, RGME, about how these exploits work. But effectively, we're moving back and forth and strategically moving memory around in exactly the way we want. We're basically manipulating memory to get certain fireballs, certain shells, certain things in exact locations in memory to manipulate those memory values. We're luring this charging chuck all the way over here with the shell so that we have our memory values where we need them. And here in a second, Yoshi, who is still being ridden, is going to pop out right here. His tongue just touched an object that it shouldn't have, and it caused arbitrary code execution to happen. And now this is what appears on the video. So we just performed an arbitrary code execution on the copy of Super Mario World, and now you are viewing this screen that says, "Welcome to Total's SNES Stereo Player." And this player does, in fact, play 16-bit, 32 kilohertz stereo PCM audio streaming directly through the controller ports of this particular Super Nintendo. So let's switch back here. I'm going to play Radio TASBot. You can yourself play this, and I'll just wander back over here. I'm going to hit enter.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Ah.
That's pretty amazing.
In stereo. So I now have a background audio. Hopefully you guys can hear me over that. This is nothing more and nothing less than an insane number of button presses per second. So to finally get back to the question that was answered or was asked, how fast can we press buttons? We can press buttons fast enough to send approximately 1.5 megabit of data through the controller ports all at once.
Nice.
A little bit more context. I have a thing I'm going to show you. 1 second. I'm going to grab it.
See, now I just want a little TASBot. We'll put him in
Yeah,
TAS.
me too. Absolutely. I want my own
Thank you
TASBot.
for putting
I
up
need more
with my
TASBot.
mad lab of crazy. This is a device you might have possibly heard of before. This happens to be a Foursquare. It's often also referred to as a multi-tap. That's another brand of exactly the same thing. This takes one controller port and plugs it into a controller, Super Nintendo controller port, turns it into 4. So you started with 1, you turned it into 4. Usually what would happen is you would have the first player plug into the first controller port, and you would use this on the second controller port. On a Super Nintendo, it's actually using an additional data line plus an IO select pin to decide which of 2 possible controllers it's reading at once on that controller port. So, in the case of the Super Nintendo, because it has more than 8 buttons, it needs to read out 2 full bytes of button presses. If I were to demonstrate this with the visualization boards, which are over here and I don't have hooked up to the console that I'm using right now, you would see that there are additional buttons that we've put in the visualization board. I'm actually going to pull one out here so you can see it. I'm going to hide this. Switch over here, go hide this for a second. This is a controller that we've replaced the buttons with LEDs so you can see what's going on. And you might notice that we have some extra buttons inside of the extra LEDs where these buttons would normally be. That's because on a Super Nintendo, you have up, down, left, right, A, B, select, start, X, Y, L, and R, the buttons on the top. But there are 4 additional buttons, basically referred to as 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're usually used for signaling the console about what kind of controller is hooked up, whether it's a mouse or a scope. But they are controlled by the controller and pads it all the way out to a full 2 bytes. When you are using one of these on both controller ports at the same time, you can read both of those data lines simultaneously and get 2 bytes out of each one of those without having to use the IO select. Because normally you would read 2 and then use the IO select and read the other 2, but not at the same time. By hooking one of these up to 2 different controller ports, port 1 and port 2, you can read controller ports 1 and 2, and then on the other one, read controller ports, what we call 5 and 6, simultaneously, which increases the number of bytes that you can read per hole of the controller to 2 bytes per controller times 8 controllers. So the math comes out to... I'm bad at math, so I'm pulling up a calculator. You didn't see this. Let's see. 2 bytes times 8 controllers. Oh, yeah. No. Oh, yeah. This is easy. 2 times 8. Yeah. I actually should have realized that this was easy math instead of just freaking out on stream. It is, in fact, 16 bytes per controller read. And then instead of reading the controller once per frame, we're constantly reading it. And to save even more time, what you're watching here, we don't even bother latching. We latch once and just keep clocking over and over again on all 4 ports constantly. So we've already sent, just in this alone, we've already sent 31,000 megabytes, 320,000 megabytes. Yeah. So this gives you a sense of how much data is being shoved down. Anyway. So, That was the longest answer you've probably ever had, with the most props you've ever had. I'll stop now.
So we have a question from Lamer007. What can you do with an X-band SNES modem and taskbot combined?
How would you like to hack a satellite with me?
Absolutely. Oh my god, I thought you would never ask.
Let's go.
In Japan, the Super Famicom, the Super Nintendo variant of that they had there, had an extra adapter on the bottom of it that went through the expansion port. This is a very lightly modified Super Nintendo. Here is its expansion port. This is a reset pen that we have hooked up inside of that expansion port. I know I'm on a really tiny camera here, so I'm going to switch over here. So this is the expansion port. This is just the expansion port reset pens connected. So this allows us to reset the console. Oh, you didn't see this flash card. No, I don't use flashcards. I always do everything legitimately. I always use the real cartridge.
Hey man, you own it.
I have specific needs. And I use this Infinite NES Lives device to read data off of that cartridge because, this had SRAM and other data. You might need to read it off. It happens. So, sometimes we read data off of here with this and then put it on one of these. Nintendo, if you're watching, I don't pirate anything ever. I am White Hat.
That INL device, do they still make those? That thing's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Haven't seen
NES Lives. So, back to the question at hand. Now that I have nerd sniped myself, which is not exactly hard to do, I have an idea that I've worked with other people to come up with this idea. I'm not necessarily the originator. I hope you don't mind that I'm streaming this audio to your YouTube channel, by the way.
Not mine at all.
I have this idea of hacking the Satellaview, a device that connects to the expansion port on a Super Nintendo, or technically a Super Famicom, and was connected to the St. Giga satellite network. That was decommissioned in, I believe, 2003, but we have determined that that satellite is, in fact, still in orbit and is still responding as a bent pipe. We already know how we could send a signal to that satellite and use that bent pipe to send that signal back to the ground and receive it. What we don't yet have all of the puzzle pieces in place on are decoding that data signal so that we can then send that data into the expansion port of a real console. Once we complete that process with your help, because we've been stalled on this, we need some help, especially anyone who can read Japanese. Once we get that piece solved, we will be able to hack a video game console from space. And then send much higher data rates through the expansion.
First world problems.
Oh no, first world solutions, my friend.
Yeah, no, man, this is actually pretty based. Like, this is fantastic.
I would like to again point out, I do not have the personal skill to know everything that would be required to do any of this. I have basic knowledge of a few elements of this. I have spent significant time learning about the Super Nintendo clock, for instance. I know a lot of weird things about how you could use this to make a really good pseudo-random number generator entropy source by deliberately keying off of the fact that the main CPU clock on a Super Nintendo runs at 21 megahertz and the APU runs at 21.576 or 24.576. Yeah, anyway. But just because I know all of this weird crap does not mean that I'm going to be able to tackle hacking an entire video game console from space. So we need your help. I need subject matter experts. I always need something. If you would like to get involved with any of the crazy things we're doing, swing by discord.gg/taskbot. If Discord is not your thing, that's okay. I understand. We have a Libera Chat IRC bridge over and the hashtag taskbot channel. It's totally fine if you just want to go over there instead. But otherwise, head on over to discord.gg/taskbot. That's where the primary community gets together to put all of these things in place. Thank you very much for tossing that on there. So that's how you can get involved in the development. I haven't even covered the craziest thing we ever did, which raised $228,000 for Doctors Without Borders in 1 hour of doing horrifically interesting things to Ocarina of Time. So maybe that's a different episode.
Mind blown.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been this silent about anything.
Holy crap.
I'm actually speechless. I don't even have a pun.
You broke alt key. That's a
So real quick, if you don't mind,
Go for it, and feel free to take me off screen. It doesn't matter.
So I gotta say, I may just be a humble carpenter, but I was in the music industry. When I saw the automated faders and pots, I was immediately blown away because
Me too.
I'm a little old, right? So when I saw the automated faders and everything else, but then to see somebody hack it, I think I put it in the chat here. I really do feel for your soldering iron. I don't know what you had to do in order to make that happen.
That was all software.
Oh, geez. Okay. So now I feel for your keyboard. That's huge. Obviously you were discussing the button issues in regards to when sound output would happen, and that was obviously this is at the beginning of like MIDI files, right? Actually, I would say it's Moog, right? The origin of MIDI. Not to bring it back to Asheville, but have you been to the Moog actual Moogseum?
I have not, even though I'm a huge Wendy Carlos fan, or Walter Carlos, depending on what name that artist was under at the time. It's amazing stuff, and I've always wanted an opportunity to combine tool-assisted speedrun content with MIDI or other synth music in some way. One of the ideas we had was to map it to each movement of Tetris. Would love to find some way to combine a musical instrument and a video game.
So your program your bot was drawing in color with Tetris. I was absolutely blown away. Excuse me. So real quick, the Moog exhibit did survive, and if you've never been there, definitely go. And I would be willing to bet that if they saw even a portion of this episode, that they would allow you to just monkey around in the warehouse, because this is absolutely some of the coolest crap I've ever seen in my life. So I have a ton of other questions. I don't want to pull up make this thing go too long, but definitely going to get in touch with you, because this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. What a great idea for charity.
It's been a wild ride. Really quick, the controlling the soundboard stuff, that was, again, not me. That was someone in the TaskBot community named Zayetskin. He made an OBS MIDI piece of software that you can find on GitHub. If you put those search terms in, you should be able to find the OBS to MIDI program. Any MIDI board will do this. This happens to have assignable MIDI controls on it. So you can use an actual MIDI keyboard, and press a button, and it will make a thing happen on OBS.
Yep, and if it's like a digital board with the automatic sliders and all that.
Yeah, and I have an X32 producer model, but it's still fine.
I've got a 48 channel digital board, and it's freaking fire. I love it.
Yeah,
I don't mean to sound like one of those old school guys that's like,
no, it's okay.
Digital's not the way to go. The first time I ever recorded 3 albums were on actual magnetic tape, right? 2-inch reel.
Dude.
Yeah.
I was just texting you this because my first album that I recorded with my band was old school reel to reel.
Yeah.
From one of the guys that recorded Bad Brains back in the day.
Dude. So I'll tell you this. I recorded with not a big shout out kind of thing, I recorded with the guys from the Blasting Room in Fort Collins, and
oh hell yeah!
It was the first time I ever recorded non 2-inch reel, and it was interesting at best, but yeah, a lot of fun. I to watch everything go from where people would bash digital, and then all of a sudden to see a punk rock studio envelop it the way they did was awesome. And the way they did it too is they might as well be on this show as well, and just show that how they actually were able to hack digital tones and come up with analog actual feel. So Yeah, awesome. I mean, I was legitimately sitting here on the edge of my seat, your whole little talk there, and I wasn't just watching everything. I was like, oh my god, this is insane. So yeah, kudos,
It's
man.
some fun stuff.
Yeah, love it.
Well, thanks for sticking around to ask questions. I don't mind at all. Feel free to hang around.
Dude, I'm gonna hit you up almost annoyingly in my free time. So.
Okay. I'm going to redirect you, as always, back to the public community, in part because when we post things publicly, we're able to share knowledge so much more effectively, and other folks who have subject matter expertise will be able to hop in and answer questions better than I can. There are so many things that I want to do desperately out of what we've done here in so many different categories. I'll mention just one. I have a desire to make a device that takes advantage of all we've learned about how to talk to these old video game consoles and helps users with disabilities or just a user who needs a different control scheme for some reason to be able to play these games on older consoles with modern control schemes or with adaptivity controllers like the Microsoft Adaptive Controller or the Accessibility Controller from Sony. Not that I recommend that one, but or frankly, either of them. But we have a project that I've been talking about for a long time. I call it the CHURBOT project, Computer Human Input Relay Bot. It will require a lot of resources to do right, but my goal is to make an open source project that can take any input, send it to any output, and translate it in as minimal time possible. So you can use various different input methods to be able to play a wide variety of video game consoles, or even go back to really old computer hardware. Maybe we can still interface with the PDP 1123. That'd be fun.
That would be awesome. One other question we have here is, how has the development of Mashbot influenced TaskBot's evolution?
So Mashbot, without the S, is an entirely different thing. For those who are unaware, Mashbot is what happened when we used a physical device wrapped around a Nintendo DS, and Mashbot was a stylus plotter that stabbed the screen. We had physical button presses, so we didn't just use electrical signals. We used actual physical button presses and a physical stylus to move things on the screen. And then did this crazy thing where we let Twitch chat vote on what solution they wanted to provide for the game Super Scribblenauts for each puzzle type that we were doing. So they could vote on one of 4 options, and then we would show a poll result, which didn't get displayed on screen very well. And whatever they chose is what we would then have TaskBot tell Mashbot to punch into the screen. So Mashbot was a physical device that played a Nintendo DS game called Super Scribblenauts, and it was hilariously messy. You can find it at AGDQ 2019, I think. Goodness, we've been doing this too many years. You can find it on task.bot, though. So Smashbot, that's a different thing. But if you were asking about Smashbot, that's the one that was made by Alt F4. And that one's a different project that's influenced us in a different way. Both of them have influenced us to basically not do that. Alt F4 lost a lot of sleep trying to get Smashbot to work, and it was an immense effort over many years. I'm very thankful for all of his effort. He would never do it again. Mashbot was highly unreliable. We were still trying to fix things as we were walking up on stage, and it's a miracle it didn't break in front of everyone. I would not do that to the GDQ staff again.
How does the team approach developing new exploits for different console systems?
So similar to cybersecurity industry, you're going to have some people who are really good at network penetration tests, other people who are really good at finding flaws in a binary. Maybe they're good at using Geardra or IDA Pro or Binary Ninja, and they can just disassemble a binary and find flaws in it. We need a lot of different types of people involved in making these kinds of events, just the same way. Specifically to your point, we need to find people who are really good glitch hunters, because what you're going to do is not play it directly on the hardware right away. That's way too hard. The right approach is to take your environment, put it in a safe playground where you can play around without any risk, without any worry about having to waste time getting the hardware back in the right state. You just put it in an emulator, get it to where you might want to play around, and you start hunting around in memory. Maybe you realize, just like Super Mario World, that as you move around, the values in memory are changing, and you can manipulate what items end up in memory in that specific sequence. And then maybe you can find a glitch that gets memory to load. You find some jump instruction that will jump to that section of memory. So a lot of this is going to be using the skills of glitch hunting inside of a video game in exactly the same way you might use those same skills in the real world. I gave a talk at DEF CON in 2016 on how playing around in these environments, making these tool-assisted speedruns, and finding these glitches inside of these emulators give you the exact same skills that you would get in the real world, and that are very applicable to finding these kinds of flaws in real programs in a safe environment where you're not going to get sued. I mentioned it earlier. This is a ROM. There is no DMCA invoking cryptography or encryption on here whatsoever. There is absolutely nothing that Nintendo can do to prevent me from using something like this to read out the contents of a cartridge I legally own and then operating on that backup. So this is legal. It's safe. You can do it without harming anyone offline. And you can take advantage of what you learn, apply it to other fields.
So where will we get one of those backup boards?
So if you would like a replay device, we currently don't have any extra in stock. We do have some older models of the TAS-TM32 V2 that we have available. Swing in by discord.gg and ask us there. We do have a shop.tas.bot website, but we don't currently have inventory. We're mostly doing it through PCBWay. So just drop on in. We're not trying to make money on this. This is a cottage industry. There's only a few dozen people in the entire world that have these devices. Sure. At that, maybe a couple dozen. But it's a lot of fun, and you can totally get involved.
Well, the reason I ask is because I have an extensive old school collection of all kinds of video games, and this is right up my alley.
Awesome. The console you'll have the best luck with is the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Super Nintendo is a lot harder, and a lot of things will go wrong until you start doing stupid stuff like making custom chips that sit like this right here. I will zoom in a little bit. That device is replacing the two clocks that are in that Super Nintendo with a single clock source, which is what the game developers were told would be there. They were given a specification and they programmed the games to that specification, but then the hardware didn't actually work the way they thought. So this restores it back to the original specification and gives us more deterministic behavior. We hope to showcase this in a future GDQ.
I need to get my hands on an NES. I bought a thing from a band because they put their album in a cartridge, and there's a chip that you have to kind of install in the thing to make it play. And I just wanted to make that work.
Nice.
You were talking about needing somebody who speaks Japanese and has some kind of technical ability. I do not speak Japanese, but I do have a very good friend of mine who may be able to help you. I'll get with you on
awesome. Swing by and we'll definitely chat.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
We have a question from Lambda here regarding your satellite view hacking and data reading decoding idea. Would it be possible to pair it with an enhancement chip like a Super FX or SA1 to give it additional horsepower?
That is a fantastic question, and the answer is unequivocally yes, actually. We think we can.
Amazing. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it isn't nearly as much as you might think. Where it gets really crazy is an even more insane idea. You see, on the Super Nintendo, we can control that latch pen however we like. We can write that latch pen as I'm demonstrating literally right now as you're hearing music. We can handle that latch pen as many times as we need per frame, per second. Right now, we're doing it only once per frame, I think. I don't even think we retimed. Maybe we just did it once at the beginning and just kept clocking. But we can control the clock signal and the latch signal as outgoing signals to a controller, which means we can take the output of controller port 2, for instance, and send it to another console. And we can keep chaining it. So if you're following me here, this means that one crazy idea we could do is to take a satellite and chain all these ideas together. Take a satellite, hack a video game console through the satellite, then hack another video game console through the controller ports connected to one another, and then use that console to hack a third console. And maybe we would go all the way up to connecting a Super Nintendo, another Super Nintendo to a Game Boy, Super Game Boy, and then go out of that to something else. Or we could go into a GameCube and go across a transfer adapter or something. Like there's all kinds of stupid stuff we can do.
So when you're talking about using satellites, are you talking about like plugging an antenna into a console?
That's what the Satellaview was. It received
like you would need pretty sweet antenna.
We would probably partner with NASA on this.
Okay.
Or
Well, I
Red
got
Bull
some
security.
friends. You can do it with a nice Yagi.
Yeah, you probably could. There's many ways we could get ourselves in a lot of trouble. We're gonna try not.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too
Sorry.
much.
I'll stop.
I have talked to the Hackasat folks from DEF CON, and they are interested in
they're
this
good.
project as well. But we do have to figure out how to decode the ST Giga, St. Giga signals on the, I think it's B-Tuner? What is the name of it? Anyway, the project has been stalled for many years, and would be nice to get that one off.
Do you guys have any traffic captures to like pour over, go through, analyze?
Yes, there are some, but nothing other than what was recorded on the cartridges. So you could record a live transmission, and this is actually how we got the BS Zelda. It's not BS. That's just its name. But there was a Zelda, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past live transmission, and the only way to experience it was if you were a Satellaview customer at the time. It would be a time-based event. You would be listening to the audio happening at the same time. It's really cool stuff. We have the output that was sent from the satellite that was recorded on these cartridges, and that's how we were able to recover those games so they're now playable. We are actively looking for anyone with these old Satellaview cartridges to get as much data as we can.
Oh.
Because there's no live capture, we have to rely on that instead.
I know someone I need to connect you with.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's a collector. He has multiples.
Okay.
I'll signal you.
Oh my God, we are going to end up breaking into an entirely second analysis. Lamer007, I see your question on screen. What was TASBot's specific role in analyzing the Billy Mitchell Donkey Kong controversy? Fun for that one. How did TAS analysis help definitively prove the impossibility of Todd Rogers' dragster record? That I can say I had something to do with. I was involved with the investigation headed by OmniGamer, in which we determined that Todd Rogers had done something that was completely impossible. OmniGamer set out to make a tool-assisted speedrun of Dragster for the Atari 2600, referenced the fastest completion time known at that time, which was Todd Rogers' 5.51 completion of Dragster, which had at that point achieved a Guinness World Record for being the longest unbeaten world record for a video game speedrun. Unfortunately, we weren't able to reproduce Todd Rogers' outcome. Even when we disassembled the entire ROM and tried everything we possibly could, there was no combination of shifting into second gear first or any other baloney that allowed us to get the same time that Todd Rogers described. But to take it the extra mile, we hooked TASBot up to an original Atari 2600 and sent a perfect sequence of button presses. And after several attempts to get the timing just right, TASBot's time was 5.57, proving that even with superhuman capacity and the ability to press button perfectly, it was not possible to reproduce the time that Todd Rogers had. Ultimately, OmniGamer's investigation led to those records being stripped from Twin Galaxies as well as Guinness World Records. And if you'd like to know more between now and the next time I get to talk to you about this, I have now been involved in 2 other controversies involving exactly the same thing.
I was about to ask you about your Diablo talk.
One of them involving Super Smash Brothers. Super Mario Maker for the Wii U, in which a player uploaded a fraudulent level and then ultimately came clean, and that had a much happier ending. However, most recently, I had a DEF CON talk about how we outed a Diablo cheater who completely chilled speedrunning in the game Diablo from 1997 for over a decade. He produced a fraudulent record in 2009. For more details on that, you can head on over to diablo.tas.bot. There is a talk on DEF CON's YouTube channel that I hope to get on my own YouTube channel soon. If you want to look out for that, please subscribe or at least follow on either twitch.tv/DwangoAC or youtube.com/DwangoAC. I'll be putting, Diablo, D-I-A-B-L-O, diablo.tas.bot is the site for the paper. I know I'm throwing URLs at you faster than is fair. But yes, if you check out youtube.com/DwangoAC, you will see eventually I'm putting together a proper video of what we found. But in the meantime, that diablo.tas.bot is a research style paper that I worked on over the course of the last several months and then presented at DEF CON. it is a hell of a read. It's some pretty fun stuff. So if investigating cheating is your thing, definitely look out for that. Also, keep an eye out for Abysssoft. He's working on a video about this controversy as well.
Okay. So to wrap it up, first off,
yes,
thank
we
you
should
for coming
definitely
on.
do
This
that.
was amazing. This is one of the coolest demos I've seen in a very long time. I mean, we don't call it a demo. It's pretty well past the demo state. We do have a wrap up coming here, and I believe CrowdStrong just wanted to ask Eric a few questions as we kind of go out. CrowdStrong actually is the CSO of a nonprofit that is in a similar vertical here. So CrowdStrong, why don't you take the floor?
So tell me about what you do. I kind of missed the first part, so just give me a 5-second tour.
Well, we're making sure that people don't lose their property due to lack of equity through either banks or any other sort of wolf that might be in the midst. So we do that through obviously nonprofits, various people. I didn't get to mention it before, but we're trying to work through the local tech college to figure out a way to get credits, not only in the form of actual college credits, but credit from their tuition to come out and help us out. So I'm trying to come up with various ways to kind of game this contracting system. In a obviously in a tragedy, it probably won't work long term, but the other way is obviously time, right? So time is money. Sure. And if we can get these things up in 45 days where it normally takes 9 to 18 months, that's a big thing. So
And you're working out in Asheville, is that correct?
Yeah, so everywhere in the surrounding areas. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the geography. I didn't get into that either, but if you look at a map, I-26 runs kind of northeast to southeast, and then I-40 runs all the way from Knoxville, into Charleston, or Charlotte, and the majority of the destruction is north of 40. I know that I-40 is going to be shut down for us out of Tennessee, coming in from Knoxville until 2025 in October. They had a landslide. Yeah, that's going to take it out for a year. So anybody that wants to get around has to either go north and hit 25, which is not too bad. It's only like 5.5 hours, but 2-lane road. Otherwise, like most truckers have to come up through Atlanta. So yeah, we've seen a lot of like logistical issues, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting for years to come.
So my nonprofit, what we do basically is we kind of work kind of like a not Jima. We deploy to places that have been hit, not unlike Asheville, but we provide communications equipment and infrastructure for law enforcement and first responders. Okay. And there are lots of projects that we're working on the side. We had a great conversation about that last week, but I don't know immediately if my team can help. I do. As I'm sitting here thinking in the background, if you see the smoke out the ears, I do know a couple of people who may be able to help get that out, that message out a lot further in that realm, that I can put you in contact with. Absolutely.
And I would love to talk to him again. It doesn't hurt to have the conversation. Sure. And now since we've got we've legitimately have the time to do it. You're not like monitoring, your fuel usage on a generator. Obviously, you can see my light is working. So where I'm at, we're good. There's a lot of people that don't have that light, but I'll have a conversation with anybody. And I'll tell you this: while we were on this podcast, I'm legitimately sending emails back and forth from a guy who doesn't have a Starlink, utilizing somebody else's Starlink, and he's just asking me, whether or not the people that are in his very libertarian community, whether their decisions are being made correctly as far as excavation is concerned. It's something I do. So he's sending me pictures of like the size of rock they're getting, and if it's worth the price that they're getting it for, because we've had multiple quarries just get washed out. So, I mean, I have to send him, this is where I'm getting at. I'm legitimately buying him a Starlink and just sending it to him. Yeah, I'm like, you can get deliveries? He goes, well, I can get it to the end of the road. I said, well, give me the address and I'll send it to him. He's like, well, yeah, how much does that cost? And I said, don't worry about it. You're in a bad enough position. I'll just send it to you. It's on the business, you can have it. And so
Good man.
well, I mean, it makes sense. He talked to me about his son, and it pulled at my heartstrings. So
Sure.
yeah, he's going to his neighbor's house to download enough movies to keep his son entertained. I was like, I feel you, buddy. I had a toddler through this whole thing. I feel you. So
what as the organization, and kind of talking a little bit as them, but a little bit as me, and I'll argue for the rest of the folks watching, what can we do to help? And you can answer that in two kind of ways if you'd like.
Yeah, obviously get a hold of me, in any way, shape, or form. Right now, it's going to be Eric Crypto at Twitter, and it's not for me to get your help. It's for me, like, if all of a sudden you want to go out, you want to help now, I'll point you in the right direction, because communication is lacking, and it's not just because of lack of tech. It's because of lack of actual coordination throughout the area, people, all that jazz. A lot of these, even nonprofits are trying to hold their own cause tight to the chest, which doesn't make any sense to me, but let them do it. They're still doing good work. I'm not gonna fight them on it. And then don't take my word for it. Obviously, you can go out and research. I'll just give you a whole list of people that I would say talk to these folk, because they're the ones out there that don't give a damn about anything.
Sure.
They're just looking to put dollars to the pavement,
Sure.
and their own personnel to the pavement. Most of these people are sleeping in their own offices as of right now, and not because they don't have a house, but because that's like how dedicated they are to it. As far as everything else, just the one thing I've noticed, and Nathan, who introduced me to you guys, Hawk, a lot of it's getting lost in the election. A lot of this is getting lost in a lot of other things. So anybody you talk to, anybody you work with, just keep pinging, keep it in the brain. And then because this is definitely, when we originally got out of this, we were looking at it like this could take 10 years to get back to semi-normal. And then all of a sudden, after a month, you're like, holy crap, we actually forgot how bad it was already, So we understand why anybody else would around the country too. But also you get reminded all the time when, a guy sends me pictures via Starlink of, is this gravel any good? So it's going to just keep, going and going and going. So don't, I would hope that this, little tragedy we got going on doesn't get lost in all the noise of everything. So I would say the best thing is, like you just said, you're in charge of communications. Well, take this communication, whether it's this actual one with this fantastic gentleman and his little bot there. Holy crap, bro. Blew my damn mind. But not just this one, but just, I keep telling everybody, I know you may not have all the contacts in the world, but you never know who you talk to. They might, so just, if you can, keep us in your thoughts, and keep us, where in a healthy place in your mind, where you just feel like, oh, this guy could help, this person can help, these folks over here can help, and just send them. I don't have to interview them. I might just point them in a certain direction. So
sure,
it's always with a shot, and sometimes it's a smaller world than you think.
It's a lot smaller world than you think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
right.
I appreciate everything, fellas. This has been awesome.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, man. Cool
and
meeting you.
I'm
actually going to talk to you more on the side.
Yeah. Let me know.
We got to talk about maybe using Meshtastic in situations like this. The cheapest one I've seen now is $10. So if we could.
I've been studying LoRa. I've
got LoRa Pro in the badge that I'm building right now.
So I've been studying LoRa to put over 100 acres worth of land.
Okay.
For a project. We
Okay.
won't come into too much detail, but about 100 acres of land I want to take and expand a network over 100 acres. So that's something that I'm working on my off time.
What kind of network?
Why LoRa versus like Wi-Fi 6 or something like big antennas?
Because it's woods.
Because
it's
what?
all woods.
Oh.
It's all because I can take a LoRa device and I can run it off of an 18650 and a solar panel, and I don't have to think about it. I can stick it out in the woods and let it run.
And the barrier to entry is definitely coming down. I've seen some cool devices lately. One the size of a card that's $40 that's got GPS built in.
Yep.
One that's $10 without GPS, but I mean, do you really need the GPS when you're setting these up? So it's like really cool way that we can lower the barrier to entry for these first responders and people to get messages out, and also enable communication in these kind of emergency situations when time is of the essence and equipment and cost is a major factor, especially when it's a nonprofit footing the bill. So you and I should definitely talk.
But again, why Laura? Isn't it line of sight?
No.
It's not necessarily line of sight. It can permeate through walls just fine. It just reduces the overall like transmission, and it's got multiple different. It's got like long fast to go further. There's just less bandwidth available for each thing that you're doing. It's pretty cool. And when I send you your device sled, you'll see how cool it is because I've got one built and I got the GPS module finally together. So I should
there we go.
One out to play with soon.
The studies I've seen so far have showed me that I can get text messages and information out 2 miles away from a point where my LoRa device is. And obviously that's not the area, but they were in a city using they had a LoRa device and a big antenna. They were using a big antenna, and then the LoRa devices were getting that all, and then they were able to talk 2 miles away in the city.
The antenna is a big factor.
I'll tell you this. Some of the smartest stuff that I even heard about as far as communications, getting phone numbers out, was because so many people needed like propane. So they would take these propane tanks and write names and addresses on it and how many people were in there and alive. And they were sending those out to like Bossman and all these places to get recharged. Mm-hmm. And then at Bossman, they were taking all of that data and information and just writing it down and then giving it to somebody else so that they could then send a text message out to next of kin. Right. So whatever you can do, I mean, short of a Sharpie, dude, a Sharpie and a propane tank was enough to get me in touch with, what I needed. So whatever you can do, it doesn't matter, just get it done. Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot. The other thing, crypto. I'm a huge fan of crypto. I've been doing it for quite some time. I think I actually.
Yep. Yeah. I was a while back. I was the CISO of a cryptocurrency. That was a number of years ago now. It was a shitcoin, but man, we had a lot of fun that
and
back
I worked
then.
in crypto for my last role.
Okay.
I'm there too. Yep.
I gave my first talk on cryptocurrency in 2011.
Okay.
He's been longer than I have.
I think I gave my first talk in 2017 or 2018. So I'm not that way.
But I made my first $100 off of Dogecoin in like 09 or no, it was like 13, I think.
Well, shameless plug. The crypto shit show is something I'm doing with Nathan, who brought you here.
Yeah.
And we are, we have a website up. It's integrity.show. That's a shameless plug for me, for Nathan and us. And we go and we're doing our little traveling InfoSec show, trying to help crypto bros do security a little bit better.
Yeah, which is very
they need
necessary. But one of the things I do need is obviously if my organization wanted to take in that avenue, that vein, because I know that that's very plentiful and everybody loves to donate, and this is a very valid cause. I would love to, because this is one of the things that Kool-Aid was going to do. As soon as I started seeing some multi-sig wallets start to happen and smart contracts were going to start being a thing, we were going to say, well, damn, what would that do to the the nonprofit industry if all of a sudden you needed 2 signatures to get $1 out the door instead of just relying on one person who was the gatekeeper for whatever embezzlement may happen, right? So if somebody wants to volunteer to be part of that, and then I'll be another section of that, I would love to take donations in. I just don't want to be taking a bunch of donations in for a thing that I'm part of. I want it to be actually transparent. It's one of the reasons why somebody that I have running the books for me is a person who has been in compliance with the federal government for the nation's second largest utility company. So, they're going to be able to handle that business and know that they're used to being audited every month and a half. So I want to make sure that all these books are, absolutely as transparent as possible for every single project, and then put that out there, because that's what, Kool-Aid was designed off of. We're just having to do it manually because we couldn't get the programming done in time. So,
Right on.
yeah. So if anybody wants to help crypto-wise, whether again, you put it out there, people want to donate, we just got to get the wallet live, and I don't care if it comes to me or goes to anybody else, just send that my way. So.
All right, and anybody else here who has a shameless plug right now, feel free to mention it. Now
Is it shameless plug time? Hi, I'm DwangoAC Taskbot guy, but I'm also Alan Cecil, looking for security consulting work. If you would like web application penetration testing help, and any kind of network penetration testing, just let me know. I'm currently doing contract work through Meltech Solutions and looking for extra stuff. So
Does it have to be contract?
I mean, I can be hired. I can't move though.
Okay.
I'm Sledge. I'm currently doing the same thing as what he just said through a company. My company, Desert Rain Security, looking for some W-2 work. The economy's been weird lately.
And I'm in the same hole, just, hi. Help.
Being underemployed sucks, doesn't it?
Just to let you guys know, in a weird way, I've met more people in tech from my, building houses and doing my thing. I put it in the comments that I do have a good friend now. It seems like all my clients end up being good friends. He's been helping with the automation of the Clippers stadium and running all the testing on that. He does the back end. So I know that once that Bruno Mars concert, there was 2 concerts. The second one went flawless. So as soon as you entered into the door, they were able to just run straight from a wallet, and you didn't even have to talk to anybody, get your, whatever you needed, whether it was merch or any popcorn, whatever, drinks. So he said that as soon as that was going to happen, it looked like they were hiring. So I'll get you in touch with him. I already got a couple of people that I know from, Kool-Aid base. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
and all the guests, if they're not already, will be added into our encrypted chat on Signal, so you guys can continue to talk amongst each other, and also mute it because people tend to talk a lot in there.
There is a lot of conversation that goes on.
I'm going to play our outro unless there are any objections or anything else. Some people.
I got one more request. Can we roll out on Taskbot, because I love him and
Yes,
I want to be his
please.
friend.
Because I love him.
I do. I love him. He's awesome.
You want me to put him back on stream? I would
desk.
gladly do that at a press of a button. No, there we go. There he is. Yeah, it's right here. I can even get him
All
full
right.
screen.
Let's do that. Play the outro, and I'll just say peace.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
All right, hackers and cyber warriors, it's time to encrypt this episode and send it out into the digital ether. Thank you to Sledge, Delchi, CrowdStrong, and Altkey for another epic nerd out session. And a special thanks to our guests for joining us. And to all our listeners out there in the cyber trenches, patch fast, encrypt tight, lock down your ports, and leave no backdoor open. Hunt threats like it's open season. Keep your passwords long, your MFA enabled. Don't use SMS as a second factor. Keep your malware signatures up to date, your critical data backed up, and your network locked down like Fort Knox. Until our next PunFest, stay vigilant, stay curious, and above all, stay counter-surveil. Whether you're pen testing networks or hardening your own defenses, remember, in the game of cybersecurity, you're either the hunter or the hunted. So sharpen those skills, mask those IPs, and we'll see you on the dark side of the net. This is Counter Surveil, where we turn paranoia into preparation, shutting down but never logging off.
He's so cute. I'm gonna die.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.